in my office monitoring the coverage on Japanese television.
And
I have to say that central Tokyo is fine from what we've seen. I walked around for about half an hour. People are calm. A lot of people are still standing around outside, not going into their buildings. But there isn't much damage. The most I saw was a cracked window and a few cracks in the walls. But central Tokyo seems to be all right. Older buildings, I suspect, may have suffered more damage, but it's not obvious from here. The real dramas are clearly in northeast Japan, along northeast coast. And we're seeing now pictures of large-scale fires. You've seen the waters flooding into some of these northeast cities. That's where the damage is concentrated.
Yes, and we have listened to the Japanese Prime Minister, Naoto Kan, appealing to the people of Japan to remain calm, a difficult thing to do, certainly under these circumstances, as you fear, certainly along the coastline, the northeast there, the approach of yet another tsunami. What about people trying to get hold of loved ones, family members? Because I'm seeing a lot of that on my Twitter account, people trying to make contact with their friends and family.
Yes, I think the problem is that the phones are very jammed. Everyone's on their phone, on their mobile. Even the landlines are a bit difficult now. I mean, I was able to get through to my family in the first half hour after this happened. They were all fine. But, you know, the system, I think, is overloaded. I suspect that it's that rather than damage to the telecoms infrastructure. So, you know, there will be a lot of anxiety, particularly for people who have family in these northeastern coastal areas.
Indeed, and of course what's interesting is in the midst of this and all these aftershocks that you're experiencing, and we've been reporting, you know, after the initial 8.9, we've heard of a 6.4, a 6.8, that even so people are still able to watch their television. The power lines don't appear to have, the downing of those power lines don't appear to have necessarily had a big impact, certainly in the Tokyo area, as you point out.
No, Tokyo, from what I can tell, is fine. The damage is really, as I look out of my window, I can't see any damage. There's a big oil fire in a steel refinery to the east. We're hearing reports of an older, pre-war building where there was some kind of school graduation ceremony going on, where a ceiling fell in and some people were injured. But I don't think Tokyo is the problem.
Indeed. You feel comfortable, though, there on the 7th floor to remain there rather than to add to the people trying to make their way home. Presumably, it took a little while for you to come to that decision.
Not really. I mean, this building seems to be quite solid. By and large, I mean, if we look at what seems, you know, still to have been a more destructive earthquake in Kobe in 1995, by and large, modern buildings, you know, built after 1980 at least, remain standing. They might have been badly damaged and rendered uninhabitable. They might have had to knock them down and rebuild them. But, you know, fingers crossed, and I hope these aren't famous last words, the big modern buildings absorb the shock. The danger, I mean, personally, I always feel that the danger is being on the street, you know, where the kind of air conditioning units, the masts that are loosely moored to the top of some of these buildings could come crashing down. So I'll be staying here for the time being.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And of course, as we reported there, Naoto Kan, Japan's Prime Minister, announcing that he will head up this newly organised emergency response headquarters. How efficient is that likely to be? And tell us, because presumably in the past a similar headquarters would have been set up. Would that be right or not?
Yeah, after the Kobe quake in 1995, the government came into a lot of criticism, rightly, because their response was very slow and poorly coordinated. I think a lot of lessons were learned from that. Certainly when I was out just now on the streets talking to people, it was striking, you know, how well prepared everyone was. Lots of people have hard hats next to their desks, which they were wearing out on the street. And, you know, although we can't make the judgment yet, you know, my assumption is that the government is certainly better prepared for this one than it was 16 years ago. You know, the government will have a lot to prove, but at this stage, I think everyone is just at the stage of trying to establish exactly what's happened and how bad the damage is. I mean, these pictures we're seeing, you know, from the coastal areas are very dramatic, but they're quite that's quite a narrow angle you're looking at. I'm not clear yet how far inland this damage has gone, or whether we're just talking about, you know, a few hundred meters at the very fringes of the sea. I mean, Japan is not a country like Indonesia. You know, it's a very rich country, and it's got a very active construction industry, which for decades